Doom v Vamus v Vamus Epicureans. This is the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I am doing well, particularly since we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Marvel Team Up number 70. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this also wraps up the volume. Is that correct?
It does. There's it's listed that Giant Size X-Men number 2 is in this volume, but that's just a cover because that's a reprint issue.
Right. Okay, so we'll talk about the issue, we'll talk a little bit about the bonus features, and then, of course, we're going to rate it. Alright, so, Marvel Team Up number 70, Oh, I don't have the title for this one. Shame on me. Whom Gods Destroy. Nice and...
Or on the cover, When Walks the Living Monolith.
Yeah, that still blows my mind that they have that different, and I know it has something to do with the production and when they do the cover versus when they do the inside, or how they can think up of two different titles every time, one for the cover, one the inside. It seems like excess work, but oh well. Okay, so
I would agree.
During this one, the living monolith grows and grows, wreaking havoc in New York, and yes, that pun was fully intended. There is very little that Spider-Man can do, but Thor arrives, and he keeps the monolith occupied, while Spidey finds a way to rescue Havoc, thus depriving Monolith of his power, which he is siphoning off of Havoc. Alright, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's similar to the last issue, right? I mean, these are basically just continuations of the same thing. John Byrne's art is a lot looser. It's a bit sketchier in this. Maybe that has something to do with the anchor over these two issues. It doesn't look bad. It's just not. Just looks closer to the John Byrne later in his career. Thor was set up to be connected into this in the last issue when him and Beast at Avengers Mansion kind of saw some things going on, and Beast had to kind of run off, which will play off later in the book, in the main title, I should say. And then, it ends with, some good fighting and things like that. I almost wonder if maybe the art was purposeful this way. As I look at some of the layout, it reminds me a lot of the Steranko art that I was flipping through in the last volume. In volume 3, rather, in the last episode that we were doing. So, maybe Byrne was doing some of this on purpose to kind of connect to some of the things back then. Not really sure. But, it's a fun little story. I could give it or take it. I mean, Havoc's not really my favorite character. So, if I was rating it from a Spider-Man perspective, it's a great Spider-Man team up. But from an X-Men story, we're just following along because Havoc's here.
Yeah, it doesn't add much to the X-Men other than this is connecting some dots for things that will play out later. I did think these team-ups were a weird inclusion until I started reading the next volume, and we see how this actually does play into some things that start off the next Proteus volume. I agree with you with the inclusion of Thor. I thought that was set up well, that this wasn't just throwing a random character in the next issue. They prepared that Thor was going to be in the following issue, and so that was nice to see him there. It didn't feel like he just came out of nowhere. But yeah, simple story, a lot of silliness, but a lot of fun. I liked how the monolith just kept growing and growing, and then him picking the boat up out of the water, giving a great sense of his size and how he kept growing. I thought that was conveyed fairly well by Byrne. So yeah, harmless, not anything amazing. All right, shall we move on to the bonus material in this volume?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let me switch my screen a little bit here. So I've got my comic reader up there. I've got the first 2 pages of the bonus material there. I'd have to say I think this volume has some of the best bonus material I've seen in an epic. I'd maybe even rank this above the extra wedding stuff that we got in Amazing Spider-Man 17 when we reviewed that one. The highlights, of course, are the original designs of the new X-Men. yes, we have this design sketch for Wolverine by John Romita, which you see there. Of course, he appeared in the Hulk first, but the stuff with let's see. Here we go. I've got the Nightcrawler one up. The original designs that Cockrum did of the new X-Men with an explanation of their characters before they actually became the X-Men, before they're these other characters, I thought that was just great. I had never seen that stuff before. I know earlier when we started recording these, Stojr, you were talking about how Storm was going to be this cat shapeshifter. I had never heard that before. I didn't know that at all. And, well, here it is. The explanation is here in this volume. I've got the original Black Cat character that becomes Storm up there now. So yeah, all of that is great. Of course, there's your typical original art that you get in this. Some of which are unused pages. That's the best kind of original art that I like seeing. The stuff that never actually made it to print before. The stuff that does make it to print, that's fine too, but the new things, that's cool. The article from Foom magazine is in there. I thought that was a bit weird, but interesting in its own way. But again, great stuff. Different from what we typically see in a lot of the epics. This one I thought was just excellent.
Yeah, I mean, and it benefits from the fact that there's a whole bunch of new characters that are introduced right here. So, but completely agree. Like, it's great to get that stuff in there. I always like seeing some of the cover designs, and you where you see like the actual pieces of other pieces of paper that are cut out and laid on top,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, they didn't redraw the logo every time. They just had one cut out that they placed on top. And they got some things in here like how to draw the X-Men, and I mean, it's solid. It's solid bonus material. I completely agree. It's got some of the Masterwork covers in here too,
Mm-hmm.
which I think are pretty cool looking. So yeah, I would agree. This has got really strong extra features, because of partially because you got two artists, with John Byrne and Cockrum coming in here, and Cockrum's really showcasing all those new characters right out of the gate.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of good stuff. All right, well, we say we're going to read, rate, and review. So, Stoger,
Yeah, well,
let's.
and one last thought,
Yeah.
on your comment about the unused pages. It's interesting because Byrne has taken some of his pages later on, and spun those off into like other stories, and I think they're going to be releasing something, if I remember correctly.
Oh
Marvel's
yeah.
not printing it, but he's taking some stories and continuation and some notes that he had and whatever. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future video because as we get more into his run, and I'll get something that's a little bit more definitive. But some of that stuff's being redone and released. And then on top of that, Claremont does that later in the 90s, or I should say, starting from the 90s forward. So there's a book called X-Men Forever, which was released in, I don't know, the 2000s, 2010s, but is basically what if he never left the book in the
Mm-hmm.
90s. He only does the first 3 or 4 issues of X-Men in 91, before he exits the book at that point. It's very short. It's just that initial storyline. So anyway, just spurred a thought there. So,
Yeah.
but
No.
as far as the rating, uh, I'm going to go with an 8.5 for me. I think for me, is that what I said earlier? 8.5, or I say 8?
You said 8.5. I got it up there.
All right, good. Now I'm consistent with what I said 20 minutes ago. Um, yeah, I mean, look, I think this is really high up there, but I also think that there are some very strong X-Men books to follow, and I'm trying to differentiate things a little bit, between things like we're gonna whether it's Proteus or the Fate of the Phoenix or God Loves Man Kills. I mean, there's some really strong stuff, that is coming down the pike. I think that this book, has a lot of that strong stuff. One of my favorite issues in here is the Christmas issue. Cockman's final sort of hurrah for now with the Starjammers, and all of that's really good. Obviously, the introduction of the X-Men, the new X-Men in Giant Size. But then there's, some of these team up issues, some of these fill in issues are just kind of there. They don't really connect to the story or the plot, so to speak, all the time. So for me, I got a little bit of from a volume perspective, got a little bit of a ding. What was your rating?
All right, we'll see if I can. Hey, there we go. All right, so I thought this was a fantastic volume. It brings incredible energy, it's overflowing with ideas, and it has an incredible visual style between the settings, the costumes, and the layouts. I find it hard to find fault with this all volume. Yes, there's things I could nitpick about. The obvious filler issues, which bog things down a little bit. I question the inclusion of some of the team-up books, but having started the next volume, I also now kind of understand why at least some of those are in there. The last two, anyway. The first two, Team Up Annual and 53, those maybe they didn't need to be there. Honestly, I thought the rest of it was so good that I can easily overlook the flaws. Even if there are leaps in logic, like using mental powers on robots or squatting leprechauns, I just don't care because the rest is handled so well. Particularly with some great and clear characterization and beautiful artwork. I think we're starting to establish a pattern here, Stojr, that I rate things a little bit higher than you. So I'm going to 9.5 on this one. I thought this was amazing, fantastic, incredible. Maybe not yet uncanny because we have to wait until issue 114 for that. But still, this is one of the best epics I've yet read, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air after that turd of a Morbius volume that we read. And maybe that's kind of why I'm feeling so generous with my rating is I have the sour taste of Morbius still there.
Well, and for me, maybe this is the leprechaun tax. I mean, you lose a point for me if you're gonna spend two issues with some leprechauns running around a castle. So,
Yeah, but they didn't do anything. They were just there.
that's my point. Like, why did we need leprechauns? Just because we're in Ireland?
God, what we need now is a
Scotland? I don't think we're in Ireland.
we
Isn't he
need
Scottish?
who? What? Banshee?
Is Banksy Irish or Scottish?
He's
I forget
Irish.
now.
He's Irish.
He's Irish. Okay, so we're
Moira
never mind.
McTaggart is Scottish.
That's what was throwing me off. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think what we need now is a team up of the leprechauns with a bowl of potato salad, and then we'll both have all of our bugaboos with this volume taken care of, right? Okay, so combining our range together, this is a 9.0 altogether. I feel comfortable with that. I hope you do as well, Stoger.
No, agree.
All right, great. Well, as always, if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, go ahead, find us on YouTube, follow us. Do I need to start doing the typical podcast thing of, like and subscribe and all that
Like
stuff?
and subscribe, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we appreciate everyone that has subscribed already, and those of you who are leaving comments in the chat. We've got a couple regulars in there, and I don't have YouTube pulled up right now, so I'm sorry I'm forgetting your names. But we see you, we appreciate you, and we love the interactions. And, of course, we're on the Discord, and you can find us on the link tree and in the description of this and all that stuff. All right, let's get out of there, and let's come back tomorrow and start a new volume. All right.
Sounds good.
Take care.